Hi guys, welcome to another one of our TFT podcasts. This one's quite a special one, a bit different. We have Ben Hardman, COO of the Finotive Group. Most of you will know Finotive Group with part of Finotive Funding, a prop firm that we use. Ben has graciously said that he would jump on the podcast with us and answer some questions and see how we go from here. So Ben, thank you for joining us. If you want to just introduce yourself a little bit and what you do at Finotive Group.
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Like I said, my name is Ben, Chief Operating Officer at Finotive Group, based in the northwest of England. So obviously, Finotive Group as a whole is based in Budapest. However, I'm from the north.
Yeah, you sound like
accent.
it.
But yeah, so we've got an interesting podcast ahead, and hopefully at the end of it, any questions that you guys have about our company and whatever, hopefully I'll be able to answer it, and yeah, go from there.
Oh yeah, it's exciting to have you on because obviously we do podcasts with members, leaders, and things like that, and this is the first one that we're doing, obviously outside of our TFT group. So it's very exciting to have you on. So and obviously
yeah, no, my pleasure.
Yeah, no, obviously you met Sean, our founder, recently at an event, and and he obviously met CEO as well, Oliver, and no, it's great to have a good relationship with you guys. Obviously, Dean is on; he does the podcast with me. I think Dean will just do a little bit of an explanation to you as to what we do at the TFT and how we come about.
Great.
Yeah, so basically, TFT's pretty much very first started beginning of lockdown. Sean's first started trading, and then literally Sean's my brother. I saw what he was doing, and literally a day later I jumped on board as well. And from there we was kind of using another educational platform. But over time we kind of decided with amongst the other leaders, like there's 15 of us, other leaders within the group, we kind of decided, well, we've got the skill set now to kind of create our kind of own education and come away from the education we were using, which was an American company. And a lot of the people, a lot of our members are from the UK, some are from Australia as well. So the live sessions that the American company offered were generally like early hours of the morning. And we also offer our own live sessions within the team. So it just made more sense to kind of put our own thing together, and also at I think it was 50% cheaper than the education that the American company used. So for us, it just made more sense because it helped everyone out by saving money, especially like, as you know, currently in the UK, like everything's just going through the roof, fuel, everything. So
yeah,
helping people save as much as possible is just really important.
Yeah, it's worth noting as well. We our group, obviously, what is in the name, Tradesmen Forex Traders, is mainly based around tradesmen. I mean, I was in the trade for 20 years before I packed it all in last year to do this full time, and pretty much most of our members come from trade backgrounds. You know, electricians, plumbers, sparkies, and stuff like this. Guys that have work with their hands a lot over years, spend a lot of time away from home, run their own businesses and stuff. And to be honest, Forex, whether it's a way of, giving up your job completely, or even if it's a way of just earning a bit of extra money so you can spend a bit more time at home with your family and stuff. So it's worked really, really well with that basis of, and obviously because within our group, that's the same. A lot of us, we can relate with one another because we've all come from very similar backgrounds and stuff. So we feel like we've got something very, very special in our group of the members, the leaders that run it and stuff like that. And you get great banter in there, you get everyone helping one another and and pushing towards, obviously, first goals in our sort of in the TFT is to get people to a stage where they can get funded accounts with companies like yourself. We only charge a monthly fee, and then when people are ready, they're ready to try for a funded account and hopefully earn a bit of extra money.
The community aspect around TFT is like no other. Like the mental health, like we have
we've got an in-house in-house
psychologist, like one of the best in the UK for 20 plus years. Like we've just stepped it up over the years of growing. and it's just became a massive family, TFT. Like, if you have a look in the Discord, we'll have to get you in the Discord, Ben, so you can see for yourself.
Of course, yeah.
Just the atmosphere of TFT is just, it's unbelievable. It's really touching how people will open up, how people will just, like, majority of these people have never even met each other face to face, and just to see people go out of their own way to help people, even if it's something really basic or it's a repetitive question, people will still answer it and help each other. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's us in a nutshell, really.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're not here to talk about us.
No.
So obviously, Ben, I had a look on, like, we had a look on your LinkedIn and stuff, and I've seen sort of like what you've done in the past and stuff. Do you want to explain a little bit about your career? Obviously, I noticed on there that you were doing aerospace engineering and then onto quantitative analyst. Maybe explain a little bit what a quantitative analyst does as well, and sort of what's led you to do to be where you are now, really.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a crazy journey, really, because obviously, like you said, by trade, I'm a qualified engineer. That's how I started in aerospace. Unfortunately, I can't actually discuss much about what I did as an engineer,
Right? Yeah,
just because of the industry it was in, which is always quite funny to say.
Yeah.
No, that's
But
fine.
yeah, I mean, so when I was an engineer, I got into trading, so just as a bit of a hobby. And one of the main obstacles, I'm sure your community have found, is trying to trade and have a job at the same time.
Yeah.
It's difficult. And there is ways around that, but unfortunately, the industry I was in, I couldn't really even be on my phone much during the day. So I kind of taught myself how to code, and went down the automated trading route. Initially, just kind of setting alerts on TradingView. So I'd coded my strategy that I used at the time on TradingView in the Pine script, and just simply had it to send me an alert whenever it was time to enter a trade. And I'd had like an Apple Watch on or whatever, so I could see it and I could quickly nip out and do that rather than having to be staring at the charts all the time, which isn't really viable.
Yeah.
So it kind of grew from there, really, and I went more down the automated trading route, started to develop actual trading algorithms, and really got to a point when I had a strategy that was working really well. And it kind of, I've always been interested in engineering, and I loved my job before, but it kind of got to a point where I realized trading is what I wanted to do. And it was kind of looking for a way to transition from being an engineer to actually doing trading full time. And I had looked at, obviously, as we know, and that's why, I love what we do at Finotive Funding. Traders, the biggest obstacle is capital. So, if you've got 100 grand in the bank, it's 2% to make 2 grand a month to kind of live off, whatever. But if you don't have that, which most people don't, and at the time, prop firms weren't really, I think FTMO was maybe around at the time. It was kind of a new industry.
Yeah.
So I didn't really see that as an option. So I actually ended up totally jumping ship, and applying for a job as a quantitative analyst at a Swiss-based hedge fund, working out of London. This was actually mid-COVID as well, so very interesting time to change not only career but industry.
Yeah, right.
But I think my background in engineering, a lot of transferable skills there, and also my interest in actual algorithmic trading, kind of bypassed the fact that I didn't have a degree in economics or anything like that. So. And really, to be honest, I just kind of showed my portfolio to the hedge fund manager, and he was, wasn't just that, but that was massively impressive and chance on me. So, yeah, that was the kind of switch to finance. You asked what a quantitative analyst does, and it does vary, but essentially, my role was developing an algorithmic portfolio for the fund. So they wanted to kind of take a step into that automated trading side.
Yeah.
Which the biggest shock for me was going from kind of a retail trading to institutional trading.
It's a completely different ball game.
Yeah, I can say from experience, no one knows what that's actually like. You have a lot of like companies doing education and they teach you how to trade like the institutions. But you know, it's just a total different game, really.
Seeing the other side of it, isn't it? I wish I would, I had experience in that sort of side of things, because it must give you such a broader spectrum to looking at the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's great with what you guys do, the psychology side, and why it's so important especially with trading prop firm money, because you're going from, looking at $1,000 that you're trading with to 6, 7, 8 figures.
Yeah.
That, if you're kind of getting emotional about losing a trade, it's very difficult. So you have to kind of switch into not even. I mean, my boss gave me at the time. He gave me a fantastic thing to remember. He said the minute you kind of quantify a loss or a win into what you could buy with that money, he said it's game over. You lose $1,000 and you think, oh gosh, I could have bought this with that.
Yeah, until that money's in your pocket, basically.
Yeah, no,
it's not money.
Yeah.
Something we always try to push within the team, to like, especially like the newer members, is like you need to look at things as percentages rather than figures of money.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think it works better for some people, and it works better for other people. I mean, I don't know, there's people that are obviously newer and stuff, and they like to think about the money. But I mean, I find with trading and teaching as well, educating, it's like everyone has to go around this circle in some way, form or another. There's got to be some sort of losses, whether that's failing evaluations or losing a funded account.
100%.
Like you've got to, I mean, we teach it loads. I mean, there's no other industry I've ever known. I mean, I haven't been in many, but I can't imagine there's any other industries that you have to fail so much at until you actually get
there. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I was working at the hedge fund for a while, and then I applied for a job at Finotive Capital. So Finotive Capital is one of the arms of Finotive Group, which isn't actually operating yet. So it's going to be a hedge fund. It's going to be partially an algorithmic hedge fund, and they were looking for a lead quantitative analyst to kind of join that journey along the way. So I applied for that job and I got it after kind of having experience with this fund in London. And then so that was that. I can't remember when that was now, but from there I then moved up to being the head of risk at Finotive Group, which is quite a big job. So that was obviously not only overseeing quite an important role, but obviously now it was over the whole group rather than just Finotive Capital.
Yeah. So what would you do as head of risk?
I mean, every day is different, so it's very very tricky. But obviously, at Finotive, for Finotive Group, the head of risk will cover eventually Finotive Capital. Once we've got actual client money that's being traded.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've got to have quite a robust kind of risk management from what we'd see as a trader's perspective of risk management, but also the overall funds risk management. So the overall exposure, looking at market conditions. Do we want to be in this instrument, even if the algorithms tell us we do, etc. Finotive Markets again. So Finotive Markets, for anyone who doesn't know, and we'll go into this in a minute, I'm sure, is our broker, which again at the minute is under development. So we're kind of using it to power Finotive funding, but it's not readily available for anyone to kind of just sign up with and trade for the time being.
Yeah.
But obviously that would be looking at the same thing for Finotive Markets. But when I was doing the role, it was mainly Finotive funding. So we've got a risk department, we've got a risk team that are basically checking the patterns and behaviors of our traders. We have to make sure our exposure is monitored, which is why we have some say we've got strict risk rules, but I personally think they're good.
Yeah.
So I was involved in the development of those kind of rules and the rule process there. But so really it would just be monitoring the daily exposure and seeing where we are.
Yeah.
If you've got any interesting queries to the risk department that they don't know how to answer, it would always be sent to me, and I'd have to look into those kind of things. So I mean, it was really interesting. So I think I was in that role for about 7 months before then being asked to the chief operating officer. So
obviously, so you weren't a part of founding Finotive then. Obviously, you said you applied for a job with Finotive. I mean, how old was Finotive before you started working with them?
So Yeah, so when I started, Finotive Capital was the first thing. So Finotive Funding hadn't actually started yet. And it was kind of essentially a startup when I joined. And Finotive Capital, it was just Finotive Capital. And it's kind of from then that funding was, and I wasn't directly involved with it. I did some bits and bobs, for it, looking at the kind of the rules and whatnot.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it kind of started, and I was doing Finotive Capital specifically, and it wasn't really until I joined the group that I started to take a bit of ownership over the Finotive funding side of it.
Yeah.
As well as everything else.
Yeah. Cool. And you obviously you work alongside Oliver, the CEO, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool. How did you was the first time you met him, like when your job interview?
Well, so Oliver's from London, but he's based in Budapest in the office there. So for the whole time since being an engineer, I've been fully remote. So I've, since getting the job, I've flown out to Budapest and obviously met Sean at our Wembley box and whatnot. But yeah, so I even did the interview online, started working online. It wasn't until I think it was after 9 months of working for Finotive Capital that I actually ended up flying out to Budapest and meeting Ollie for the first time.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
which
That's
just showed
the world we live in now, isn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the new normal, isn't it? And essentially do everything without being in an office for most jobs, anyway. So yeah, a lot of it's been remote, and a lot of our team, we've got a team across the world for Finotive Funding, our support staff.
How big's how many members of staff does the company have?
I have lost count, but I know our support team is growing pretty much every week. Because the thing is, there's no downside for us increasing our team. Obviously, there's a cost, but we pride ourselves on having that kind of customer experience in that community, and actually having someone there 24 hours a day is really important. So
yeah, definitely,
it's only going to grow from there. Next year, in the Budapest office, we're going to be expanding to a much larger office and taking on more people. So it's really exciting time.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I think you guys are really shining through. Like I think it was Sean that actually found you guys in the first place. And I mean, you say about your specific rule set and stuff, and I think they're just great rules that teach good trading, skills. For your own rules, like things like the stop loss stuff, and like trades must have a stop loss, and like these, they're just simple things that every trader must do. I've seen stats from other prop firms and stuff like this, and they have stats like 60% of their traders don't use stop losses and stuff.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's mental, which absolutely blows my mind. And I think just to I might have been one to before to put on trades. Like sometimes I'd market executed trades without a stop loss, but I put it on within a few seconds. But now on my with my Finotive account, I open the trade with my stop loss. It takes away any risk like that. Obviously I know I was always risking a bit by those couple of seconds where it could shoot in one direction, but that's kind of, and now it's kind of set. It's actually set in my mind that I don't enter a trade now without my stop loss already, no matter whether it's a couple of seconds afterwards or not. So exactly. I think you guys have got a really good rule set compared to others, and it must have took some sort of thinking about really to actually get something that's not going to scare people off, but make people realize that this is actually good practice.
Yeah, and so the risk rules especially I'm really passionate about, because when I was kind of head of risk, that was what I was involved in developing. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the kind of other firms, I mean, never name names or whatever, that's not what I'm about. But if you look at any other firm, as far as I'm aware, their terms and conditions, I've not seen any kind of quantifiable risk limits. So every firm has kind of got a policy which will say if they deem you to be risking too much, over leveraging, gambling, whatever, it's within their right to kind of take action, and that action is normally terminating your account. And it's quite an interesting thing if you jump on a web chat for other firms and ask how much is too much risk. And I've never had an actual answer from, when we were kind of researching, market research, trying to develop our rules that would both protect us, benefit the trader, but also be kind of in line with the industry at the time.
Yeah.
We were thinking, how on earth can we kind of say it's up to our discretion? Because then no one knows what they're allowed to do. So that's why, and we introduced a responsible trading policy, which, it has had some stick, but the only stick it's had is from people 99 times out of 100, people that have breached it, but on quite a dramatic scale. So you'd be very surprised when you look at what we can see from traders, the kind of risk that people take. We had someone that was risking, I think he was risking 2,000% per trade.
What?
So where his stop loss was, I mean, there's no point having a stop loss because it was, 20 times more risk than his account balance.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And it wasn't like a one-off mistake, which we sometimes see.
Yeah.
It was every trade. And we said, look, you can't do this. We're gonna have to kind of reset your account. Please try. I don't think he was funded. I think he was in the challenge. We said, look, we want you to retry this phase of the challenge.
Yeah.
Because at the minute we're evaluating and you're showing that you've got absolutely no regard for our capital.
Yeah. 2,000%. That's insane.
And he kicked off. He said, right, close my account, I want a refund, and left us a 1-star review.
Yeah.
And thinking, look, if he got one trade wrong, he would have blown his account anyway.
Yeah.
And we've not only not terminated his account, we've given him another shot and said, so that's the thing. And that's why we kind of developed them in a way that everyone can know the exact cash amount that would be a breach of our responsible trading policy. So, for example, we've
I think it's 3%, isn't it?
It's not a percentage, so it's 50% of your remaining drawdown allowance.
Oh yeah.
So if you've got, if you start an account fresh, so you've got a 100K account and you've got 5% daily drawdown, so you can risk $5,000. We're saying don't risk half of that on one trade, because if you do that from a common sense point of view, 2 trades and you're gone.
Yeah.
Or you've lost a big trade and then you're going to have to reduce your risk and it's going to take you more wins to make that back.
Yeah.
And actually, it's beneficial to kind of lower that risk.
But that's the silly thing, isn't it? Some people will see that as being like, don't tell me how to trade, but really you are genuinely actually just looking out, like trying to help people improve.
100%. But it goes back to what I'm saying. Every other firm has got a policy and they've got like risk analysis. You don't know where you stand with it. So you don't actually know so they'll have a level in their heads that they say, hang on, this is too high risk.
Yeah.
But as a trader, you don't know what that is.
And they'll just manually pick people out, I suppose.
Exactly. And that's the other thing. So we're quite initially we were quite stern in saying that we'd treat it as a hard breach. And we've taken people's feedback on board. While sometimes we disagree with people saying they don't know how to calculate the risk. And that's why we've developed our risk calculator. We allow the use of magic keys and other tools like that. But we've kind of done it now in a way that we very rarely terminate anyone on this unless it's kind of a repeated offence. They've been warned numerous times and they clearly have no interest in changing.
Yeah.
But what we'll do instead is if they're in the challenge, like I said, we'll ask them to kind of retry that phase of the challenge. So if they're in phase 2 and they kind of breach it, we'll say, look, we want you to try it again, stick to the risk rules, etc. They won't lose their account. If they're funded, they'll be on a temporary profit split reduction to 25%. So we'll still pay them if they've withdrawn. And we'll then, if they improve, we'll then give them their full profit split back. And then same with scaling. If someone requests a scale and we notice that they've, kind of generated that profit acquired in a way that's in breach of our rules, we'll just say, look, temporarily, we're not going to allow you to scale. Please just withdraw that money instead. And going from there. So we've tried to keep it in our opinion, an extremely fair way that's both transparent and benefits us and the trader.
Yeah, I think you guys definitely stand out like that. I mean, I've seen many occurrences with guys in other prop firms and stuff, and obviously people sort of get in touch with. And prop firms can be very, very known for just flat out no, whatever they put towards them, they're like, oh, like I've done this or this was a one-off mistake or da 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 da. They'll just, that's it, no, sort of thing. But from what I've seen from members, I think even myself, I had a query. I've had the odd query. You guys have always been very, very understanding, and there's you sort of give people a second chance if it's like an obvious mistake and things like this, and and you can kind of look back at their trading past and you can kind of see when a mistake's a mistake, sort of thing. I think you guys really, really stand out like that, and it's really, really refreshing to see in the space, to be honest.
Regarding back to the customer care, like I've seen you guys, you have your own Telegram, don't you?
Yes, yeah.
And I've seen like people come with issues, and all literally every time the team behind that they're answering it, they're getting on it, they're resolving issues. It's fantastic. And even like you said about that gentleman who was risking 2,000%, you still offered him to redo that phase, which there's so many prop firms out there that will be like, no, you're not doing it. You've over leveraged, you've hit that hard risk, you're gone. So it definitely shows like your level of kind of interest to actually benefiting and helping these traders, really, which is fantastic to see.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah,
and like I said, community, not many firms have their own dedicated community, or at least when it kind of they grow to a certain point, it becomes unmanageable.
Yeah.
But we're quite determined that we'd rather just grow our team and actually manage that, because it's very important. Trading's a really interesting place, because any other industry, if you've got an issue, you can wait 24 hours to kind of get a response. But for some people, or most people with trading, if there's an issue, they need a response right now, because it's so important. And we do understand that. And there's some things that can wait, and we'll say, just send us an email, we'll look into that. But anything to do with actual trading, execution, pricing, whatever, we see the importance of trying to give a sub-minute response to that and try and come up with a solution.
Yeah, you guys have always been great on the online chat on the dashboard and that.
I mean, the team, they work ridiculous hours, which is why I'm quite keen to grow the team to just kind of alleviate that.
Yeah.
I mean, their choice, but
yeah. Is that mainly based out in Budapest then? Is it?
So we've got. I don't think we've got anyone. I think we've got one support guy in Budapest. We've got what have we got now?
Is everyone just remote then, are they?
Yeah, we've got Nigeria, got South America, we've got Spain, Singapore, I think.
Right.
I'm honest, I should know, but I don't. We've got a few. They're dotted around.
Yeah, you're only COO. It's fine.
No, I should know.
Obviously, we were. I mean, a lot of our members won't have obviously know Finotive funding, and like you were talking about earlier, they may not understand that is all underneath the Finotive group cloak. And Finotive funding isn't the only part of it. Obviously, we did chat a little bit about the 4 sectors.
Yes. Funding. So I'll have to be careful with this, because one of them, which you guys will be aware of from Sean, I'm going to have to try and keep it under wraps.
Right.
Right. Okay. So maybe we'll just slyly go over this question.
I can go over 3. I can go over the 3 of the 4. So we've obviously got Finotive funding, which everyone knows, and that's obviously been fully operational for about 18 months now. And we've got Finotive Capital, which started before that, but still in development. And part of that is just the kind of regulation side. It's quite a beast, and it's not just an overnight process to get regulated. It's a lot of time, money, and just trying to. There's not a regulateme.now.com, for example. You have to know who to speak to try and get that. So we're getting there. It's on the cards hopefully next year to get that finished. And same with markets. So one of the things we've done recently with markets. So obviously markets is our broker, and we have our MT5 license. So that's ours. Right. We've recently stopped using MT4 because you can't buy an MT4 license, and you haven't been able to the last few years. So MetaQuotes have stopped issuing them, which means for us to offer MT4, it has to be a white label from another broker. And we did that initially, but since getting our license for MT5, we just realized we've got so much more control. It's our license. We're not at the mercy of someone else having technical issues and us waiting. We're just ending up being the middleman. So we made that decision. I think it was the start of this month actually that it came in. That's just MT5. Maybe look at offering C-Trader hopefully in the future. The demand. But Finotive Markets is kind of in the same boat as Capital, in that we're just kind of in the process of sorting that regulation for it to actually be its own thing. At the minute, it powers Finotive funding with pricing and execution. However, for it to be a fully standalone broker where we're kind of handling client funds is quite a serious regulation to have. Again, that will be in place next year. And then we've got the fourth thing, which unfortunately I'm not going to mention.
That's fine.
It's a very exciting thing, and I think the reason
it definitely sounds exciting.
Yeah, the reason we don't want to mention it is because we're aware that no one else is doing it, so we want to keep it under wraps.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Take the market by surprise, really.
Yeah.
But all I'll say is that it's going to revolutionize the way that traders can trade.
Yeah. It does sound very, very exciting, and I apologise to any members that we can't give any, can't give any information about it because that's massive.
But they will find out at some point, which is the important thing.
The aim is to launch next year with.
I mean, not that me and Dean know much about it,
but we know it's there. And even how it sounds exciting. So
it's there, it's happening. So
exactly.
That's all that matters for now.
So moving on to the next question with yourself, Ben. Do you trade Forex still? And if you do, how are you finding time-wise management around work life and trading?
Yeah, so it's a good question because when I was solely kind of a quantitative analyst and even when I was a lead quant, my job was trading. So, all I'll be doing all day is, writing strategies, looking at the markets. However, kind of being as I've kind of worked my way up and taken on more responsibility, it's obviously time consuming. So I do trade, I swing trade cable and fiber, and I do that on not every day. I'll kind of hold positions for, weeks. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. Because I still, I'm still a trader at heart, and that's what I love doing. But obviously, it's not viable for me to kind of be scalping or day trading.
Yeah.
Because I'll either do one thing, worse than the other, which is obviously isn't ideal. Obviously, like I said, my background is automated trading, so there has been periods where, whilst I've been kind of developing a strategy, I'll just test it with my own money and trade. There's no better way to test an automated system than live trading. So kind of killing two birds with one stone. But I do enjoy just swing trading my own money, I think. Especially,
I mean, obviously, we teach it in. Obviously, we have the same kind of thing educating in our group as well, because obviously, like we said, we have many tradesmen who work there, 8 to 5s or stupid hours, like a lot of people do. And a massive thing with a lot of tradesmen or people even coming into Forex with their full-time jobs is finding time to trade. And some people are so limited to the evenings and stuff, and it's really it's hard, and it's a hard journey to learn in that sort of way when you can be in and out of work or trying to check your phone or just even trading from your phone whilst at work, fit in a bathroom or something like this. So it's like you say, not scalping obviously isn't really a possibility, and for most of our members, scalping isn't really a possibility because they need to be on their phone. But being able to sort of like we sort of teach, learning to work with pending orders, checking, checking your checking the charts in the morning before work, maybe looking at some possible setups, looking for your pending orders there, stuff that you can just nip in back and forth to. So we totally understand it. It's a really big thing. Actually, finding what works for you, and obviously it sounds like you know what you're doing with that anyway.
Another thing is just the use of alerts. So like I said earlier, that's how I kind of got into automated trading. Was on TradingView you can set alerts for different price levels. If you've got a trend line and it crosses, even a lot of indicators, you can
put alerts on them.
Yeah, exactly. So the only reason I learned to code was just because what I was trying to do was quite specific. However, just alerts, you can set it to come through to your phone, to your Apple Watch, whatever. So there's a lot of tools nowadays that do make it easier to kind of not be at the charts all the time, which is fantastic for a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's quite a hard thing for some people to get their head around. I mean, obviously thing we find with trading and teaching and stuff, and I remember when I got into it 5 years ago, it's like it's hard to work out I've lost my train of thought. People, like when you're coming, No, don't worry about me. I lost my train of thought. I didn't know where I was going with it.
I think we're quite fortunate though. We have a gentleman in our group that can code, and he actually created one of the indicators for one of our strategies.
Yeah.
And so again, like, it was a matter of testing it out and everything like that, back testing. And so I think, yeah, like yourself being able to code, you were able to kind of work at your own strategies, and having Paul within the team has been absolutely fantastic, because it kind of gave us a step up to not actually have to outsource from anyone else or anything like that. Like that is our that's our indicator, Matt. You know, like, originally it was Matt. He's another leader within the team. It was his strategy that he'd been developing over for 10 years, I believe it was. And Paul was able to create it into an indicator, and like people like it's been fantastic. And I think that's actually the strategy a lot of the team are using with Finotive for their challenges, and they are like consistently passing
Great.
as well, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's good to see. Yeah, Ben. So obviously, with what you do, obviously you say you work remotely and stuff. What does a typical day in the life of a COO of Finotive look like? Do you have much sort of free time, or I mean, is it like work, or does it actually give you free time and stuff?
I mean, to be quite honest, I probably work 16 to 18 hours a day most days.
Yeah.
And part of that is just because of, it's kind of, it's my baby now. Being in the role I am, it's not just really a job. It's we're both, me and Ollie, are really passionate about everything, not just Finotive funding, but everything that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's a massively all consuming role. But I love it. And to be honest, day to day, it's different every day. It's pretty crazy. But I think one of the main things is it's just managing the daily operation of everything. So that could be, making sure that everything's running smoothly from, the market side. A couple of weeks ago, we had a horrible issue with on the CPI data with one of our servers, and it was, that's kind of comes down to me to look into that.
Yeah, I was involved with that actually. And that's why something I'll give you guys credit to. I know my MT5 crashed on that, and I had a trade that I was massively in profit with. I couldn't actually close that trade, and then I had two pendings at much higher levels, which it hit both of those. I had blown my stop loss, but was still trading I don't know, it was like 7 or 8 times my stop loss. So I was looking at my dashboard on my MT5, and I'm like, oh my! I got one trade massively in profit, and I've got two that have blown through, but nothing was closing up. And so that's like you said about Finotive, and I got on the dashboard and I messaged and I just said, like, basically help. And you guys are very, very good. And obviously the things, the trades got closed, but then I sort of messaged and I said, look, this has happened, this has happened, and you guys got back to me in a few hours, and the money had been refunded from the losses, and the winning trade, was capped off at my take profit. So I couldn't argue with that, and it was very, very, very good of you guys. It really, really stood out for me as to something I wouldn't expect a lot of funds to do. But sorry anyway, because I was done.
No. I mean, that's a great example, because it's stuff like, sometimes there is a quiet day and they're fantastic where everything's running smoothly, nothing to report, and it's just a case of replying to however many hundreds of unread emails I've got personally. And those are great days. But then you've got days like that, and it's like, the team are pulling an all-nighter to, checking what someone has lost. When you have an issue like that, obviously the priority is getting everything back online, and we've put things in place now that, that will never happen again. And we know exactly why it happened. And we're taking precautions. And to be honest, that's the kind of thing that, it's better that happening now, and kind of getting the infrastructure in place to make sure it doesn't. However, obviously, then the second thing is making sure everyone's being reimbursed for any losses incurred from it. So, that's not, you have to look at calculating the difference and whatnot. And it's not a case of, I mean, there were some really interesting ones where we'd have to look through someone's journal to see the second that they tried to manually close something and it didn't, and then work out the price from that time based on the tick data, and then it was a massive job, but that was the kind of thing that at the end of the day it kind of falls down to me to.
And how many sort of traders were affected by, say,
luckily it was only about 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I think a lot of people hadn't, held trades over the data. I mean, it was quite an interesting one because if I'm correct, it wasn't even the CPI data that affected it. It was some Fed comment that they decided to say 3 minutes after. And I know for a fact it wasn't actually just us that experienced issues. Other brokers had got some server outages, and maybe they were same server somewhere. I don't know. So luckily it was only 30, but obviously that's still a lot of work to try and go through each of those 30 people and make sure that they've been correctly reimbursed.
Well, yeah, it's 30 people panicking.
Yeah, so, exactly. And our support
even that alone, really that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. And obviously our support team were kind of on the ball in just being responsive and kind of reassuring. Because like I said earlier, for some reason with trading, it has to be sorted now. Do you know what I mean? It can't wait 2 days for maybe a solution, but not a response. So I think it was dealt with pretty well, and
I thought it was handled really, really well, to be fair.
Yeah,
like I said, I kind of had my guard up a little bit because it was like, I don't know, like I've had experience with other prop firms before, and like I said earlier, it's just like so many times it's just like a flat out no. Like it's it's your fault. Like go away. But it's like, I don't know. And I was really, really impressed. I thought it was really, really good. And it must have been quite a headache as well. So.
And the thing is that there's some prop firms out there that if you're trading around news and it hits a stop loss or take profit or whatever, you violate the risk, and then you can lose your account.
Yeah.
So that's also another big thing. Like some things you just can't help. Like I know with some you have to wait like 5-10 minutes after the news of the impact to then exit the trade or enter a trade. So
yeah. And the thing to remember is, like, because of the way we kind of operate, obviously if someone was in a challenge account, it wouldn't have been so much of a problem because it's kind of non-execute. But for any funded traders, we've had to take that on the chin and kind of reimburse from our own pocket. And unfortunately, in this industry, you can't we couldn't go to the LP and the server provider and say you owe us this much. They're going to give you, they're going to say all sorts.
I bet that's got to be quite a common thing, hasn't it, from sort of like more inexperienced traders about having their it must be one of the most common, like, of having their stop losses blasted through and
definitely
stuff.
I mean, we've just got to judge that correctly, because we will, if someone says, I had a stop loss and it wasn't triggered, we always look at the journal and see why.
It's usually look at the 1 second chart. And you'll sort of see where price ended and finished.
No, exactly. And more often than not, it's because there was no liquidity at that price. And, traders have to realize, I think you'd be surprised at how many traders kind of want to join a prop firm and trade someone else's money without doing any research about what trading. People look at a chart and think that's it, but there's a lot to know as a trader. Even we've had it, you might have seen in our Telegram, people asking about kind of like someone saying, "Oh, US 30 is not working," but they didn't take 2 seconds to look at the trading times for the instrument. And there's things like that I'd encourage all your members.
It's very basic stuff.
You've got to take a good half an hour at least to just understand what you're trading. What is it? Is it a future? Is it a spot? Is it whatever? How does that work? And this kind of stuff that, if you were just demo trading, then you wouldn't experience liquidity issues or slippage.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, I think it's a good learning experience for a lot of people.
Oh, definitely. Like we said, it's like, the failures, isn't it? It's just like, some people love to jump on fundamental news and things like that because, you get big price moves until they get their account blown, and now they're going to be a lot more cautious,
No, exactly.
And that sort of thing again. So, sort of leads on to the next question. But like, what have been the challenges, sort of both foreseen and unforeseen, being like having such a pivotal role in the prop firm like you do? I mean, coming into the position you're in now, like obviously, what problems did you sort of know that were going to happen, or what challenges did you know you were going to come across? And is there some things that have surprised you?
Yeah, I mean, the unforeseen is definitely stuff like what we talked about with the the issue we had on the CPI. That stuff you just can't foresee. And yeah, that's always gonna not that specific example, God forbid, but that stuff is always something's always gonna happen. Like there's every day is different. There's always gonna be something that kicks
It's on your toes.
Whether it's kind of, I mean, like just adding on to like the last question as well. Like I'm obviously quite heavily involved in the development of new things, so and that's often where a lot of the unforeseen issues are. You kind of along the process of working with someone new, like a provider for a certain product or service, and then it's like, oh yeah, there's actually an extra zero on that price, and you're like, oh, we've gone down this road for 3 months now, and there's just there's so many things, and it's like it's definitely been a character building experience on a personal level. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like foreseen challenges with the prop firm, and specifically, I guess the biggest challenge is developing a product to be better than our competition, while still kind of maintaining our business interests and making sure that it's beneficial to the trader. It'd be very easy to just kind of make a prop firm with 50% max drawdown and no risk rules, do whatever the heck you want, and that's just going to have no longevity. And I think it's finding, and I think we're in a good place now where we feel like we've found that balance where, we do have some, you could say strict rules, but like we've discussed on this meeting, like it's, they're beneficial for everyone when you actually understand them.
Yeah.
And obviously price and stuff like that. I guess the biggest challenge is positioning yourself as a company in the market in a way that isn't compromising in any areas. And that has been the biggest challenge. And a lot of the decisions we have to make have to take that in mind. Like, do we launch this product? Do we do that? And if we do, is it going to actually be a short-term benefit but a long-term disadvantage?
Yeah, very good. Go on, Dean. Next question.
Yeah, so prop firm, as we all know, like we see it all over Google and the reviews and everything like that. A lot of prop firms get quite a negative representation on how they're done, and especially over the last 2 years, I've seen so many prop firms come and go. Like they don't last long. What sets Finotive aside to them other prop firms?
Sure, good question. I'd say the main thing is that Finotive Funding isn't just a one-man band. As we've discussed previously, we're more than just the funding side. And the amount that we've put in both time, effort, and money-wise to developing everything else, I think hopefully shows people that we're not just here for the next year, whatever. Like we're looking to grow a company, a group that has massive longevity. And part of those are, what I've discussed previously, for Finotive Markets to be licensed. So we're hopefully going to be licensed from the National Bank of Hungary next year. I don't know any other firm that has a regulated broker, their own regulated broker. I might be wrong. I'm sure maybe there is one. I don't know. And just the amount we've invested into the process, it'd be not in our interest to kind of for it to stop.
No.
We're here for the long haul. And what's quite interesting nowadays, you say there's a lot of kind of firms that are popping up and
especially over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I'd say ruining the reputation of what we're trying to do. And in my opinion, part of that is because you've got certain brokers now, they're actually offering a prop firm package. So you can go to a broker that offers this. I don't know how much it is, but say it's, for example, 10 grand. You give them that, and they'll give you a white label for their license. So you've got your MT4, MT5 broker in inverted commas, but it's still a white label.
Yeah.
They'll even give you a CRM back end, and then the whole automation to do it. So all you have to do is make a nice looking website, and
Wow.
boom, you've got a prop firm.
Yeah.
You can choose your own drawdown rules. You can do whatever you want, and this you can look this up. This is a product that's readily available.
Yeah.
So when you see firms that seem to all be using the same broker to power it, I'm sure not all of them do this, but I'm aware that some of those brokers that I've seen offer this product, so it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
So what I'm getting at is, unfortunately, it's becoming very easy to start up your own prop firm. Maybe we've been silly that we've done it from scratch and spent a lot of money doing it, but actually, I think, you know, we're positioning ourselves as well to answer the question some more. We're positioning ourselves that if running a prop firm in itself becomes a regulated activity, that we will already be regulated through Finotive markets. Which I think, if that does happen, a lot of the main firms that you see are going to come unstuck, unless they're also working on that behind the scenes, which we'll never know. So that's another thing that, you know, we're around for the long haul, because and we're putting the infrastructure in place now to do that.
No, it sounds like you guys, I mean, you guys, you know, you guys seem to really stand out as a prop firm to other companies I've dealt with 100%. And like you said, all this stuff that you're working towards, really does set you aside, I think.
Being regulated as well, that's massive.
Yes.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you know, for a while we done HFX and none of the brokers there were regulated, and it was an absolute nightmare for some people trying to even withdraw. So having that regulation is just a complete game changer. And to be fair, that just shows that you guys want it more than the other prop firms, because you're willing to go. Like, that's not an easy process to get regulated. It's an absolute nightmare. So for you guys to take that next level up and actually hit it and get regulated just shows that, you know, you're here to stay.
I think you're going to be a really big player. But if you guys get that done, I think that's going to be a massive step up.
Yeah, so that should be in place. The goal is next year, by Q1, so not long.
No,
hopefully Finotive markets will be regulated, if fingers crossed nothing kind of comes up.
Wow.
And then to grow that regulation in a way that kind of covers Finotive funding, and I think Finotive Capital will kind of have to have its own, as it will be trading client money. But once you've got one regulation, it's very easy to then expand that. This is the most difficult phase, and like I said, hopefully it won't be much longer until that's in place.
Oh, that's exciting stuff. Really, really is. Just a couple of questions just on differences that I've noticed with you guys and other prop firms. Kind of goes off a bit, but like a lot of other prop firms obviously deal with monthly payouts. This is obviously something that that certainly appealed to me with Finotive. Obviously, you guys, once people have become funded, you offer a payout within 2 days, and then weekly after that. And obviously, most companies are a month. And can you explain a little bit behind the process of that?
Sure. I mean, to be honest, in our opinion, there's absolutely no reason for a prop firm to hold back trade profits for a whole month. Unless they're kind of, waiting for them to fail.
Well, I think that's definitely a big thing that I found trading on monthly accounts. You've got, you can make decent money in the first week, and then you've still got 3 more weeks to lose all that money.
Exactly.
Whereas, with Finotive, the payout system, I think it's great. You can literally teach, if you're careful, stick to your rules and stuff like that, you can actually, treat that as a very well-paying job,
exactly. Weekly, because to be honest, like, it wouldn't actually make any difference to us if we did daily withdrawals. Like, the only problem at the minute is just that it would be too much pressure on our payments team. Obviously, as we grow, as we try and automate as much as possible, who knows, maybe we can do daily payouts.
You reckon that's a possibility in the future?
Well, like I said, I don't see any reason why it would make any difference to us. It would just be a case of just a pressure on the team. Like, we need to make sure we are checking people's trade history before, to check that there's not been any breaches or whatever. But if we can get everything fully automated, then I don't see why not. But yeah, I mean, to answer your question, like we just saw the same thing that you've seen, and we just thought this is something that we can massively beat, and actually can be one of our foundational benefits, just giving people their money as soon as possible.
Yeah, and I think a lot of new funded traders, people that have been learning and they pass an evaluation. I don't know exactly what the stats are, but with a lot of companies, most the people that actually get to a monthly payout is an incredibly low figure. I mean, I know a lot of people will blow their account in the first few days of having a funded account, and having that option to have a payment within 2 days and actually earn some money is a really, really big selling asset, like to something to offer for a prop firm, I think, because it's a huge confidence boost for traders.
Mindset, it helps massively.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because it shows that it's actually achievable.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, and no, it's really good. But also another one that just to shed a bit of light on. Was I've looked at your like scaling up program, and obviously if you scale up, you have to sacrifice your profit. So if you're going from a 25k account up to a 42k account, I think it is, you obviously have to make is it 10% or 2,000? 8% or something. So obviously you have to make $2,000, and then you can scale up your account. But obviously you will sacrifice that 2,000. It's the only bit with Finotive that doesn't make sense to me, because obviously if I scale that up now, say if we're looking at say a 100k account going to a 200k account, say now somebody's obviously traded up and they'd have to reach $8,000 on a 100k account. So now they would have to obviously sacrifice all of that 8,000 just to have their account doubled. What's the sort of thought process behind that? Even in my head, I would think because it doesn't matter what your profit is, right, as well. So say if I made 10% or 12% and you wanted to scale up, you'd still lose it. Would that be right?
No, you can withdraw the excess.
You could withdraw down to 6%.
Yeah.
I see. But obviously, do you get a lot of people scaling up? Because obviously if you scaled up from say a 10k account, there's a lot of money there that you would be sort of sacrificing.
Yeah, of course. And so yes, it's a great question. We've got a kind of maximum capital allocation, as I'm sure you're aware. So traders can have up to 600k in challenge accounts and further 200k of instant funding. So you've kind of got like an 800k maximum initial capital limit there. So yeah, I totally agree. In the earlier stages of the scaling plan, it's massively more beneficial for someone to withdraw and buy another account. However, the point of it is that, so when you look at the capital increase, if you kind of take away so the actual capital increase is quite vast. So you're going from, I think it's 25k to 43k for for $2,000. So we're giving you quite a lot of funded capital, which is straight away funded. So you don't have to run that extra capital through an evaluation challenge or whatever. So you're getting that funded capital straight away. And really the reason for this is that we want so it kind of gets to a line in the scaling plan where it becomes exponential. So if you actually work it out, so based on that 800k of maximum capital allocation, I think if you did that all in 2.5k accounts and linked them together with some sort of trade copier, for example, and then you scaled up all of those 2.5k accounts, I think doing that, you could actually end up managing over $40 million with us. So it becomes a point where it's actually the scaling is exponential, but it takes a few stages to get there. And the reason for that is that we want to see consistency and commitment from the traders that are wanting to scale up. That they're saying, look, I'm willing to sacrifice this for the short term because I want to scale my account and get to that point. Because it very, very quickly ticks over to a point where you've scaled your account to $1 million. And you make 1%, and that's 10 grand, and that kind of it wouldn't take very long to make back the kind of exchanged profits. I know some firms kind of do it where you have to trade for, I think it's like 3 months or something before they scale.
It's normally 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, so we just thought this is something that people can do as quickly as they can do a payout. So you can scale very quickly. You don't have to do that. However, for the first few scaling stages, there has to be a level of kind of sacrifice and a show of commitment from the traders' side. They're not just in it for kind of the short term.
Funds.
Yeah, because we have a lot of traders that, they'll buy in. So we've had people where they'll buy an instant funded account and they'll just basically maximize it as much as possible within our risk limits, and basically just keep blowing the account. And the idea is that they keep doing it so many times, and at some point they're going to get lucky
and get a big payout.
So the introduction of our introduction of our RTP has kind of stopped that a little bit, because you can't just full margin gold and get lucky. However, with the scaling plan, it could have the same danger. So we would rather still offer people that kind of quick payout and the quick scaling option, but also, like I said earlier, it would make more sense for kind of traders looking to benefit in the short term to just withdraw and buy more capital.
Yeah,
but for someone that's really looking to manage some serious cash, maximizing that capital under management and then scaling it, which may take a year, but after a year's time, if you're consistent and you're able to do that, you're managing millions and you make 1%, and it's someone's year's salary.
Yeah, I believe right. Yeah, I know the money is absolutely insane if you know what you're doing.
So like our scaling plan, when you look at it on a surface level versus other people, it's not as good. But actually it becomes a point where it is. And that's what we're quite passionate about. Because like I said as well, you don't have to wait another 30 days before you can scale again. You could scale once a week. So if you're going for like an instant funding account and you're smashing it, like I said, you've instantly funded. You don't have to do a challenge. And every week you could be scaling up your account.
I got you.
So that would be quite difficult, but it's not impossible.
Do you know how many sort of? Oh, well, I don't know if you can tell us or not. Do you know how many funded traders you have on your books at the moment?
How many funded traders? I know recently we hit 50 million of funding. I don't have the number of traders though.
Okay. Do you know what your biggest accounts are?
Biggest account. So to answer your question earlier, not many people at the minute are scaling up. And it maybe comes down to this kind of weighing up people's priorities, short term versus long term, which is fine. That's why we've got two options. But we had one person that scaled 2.5K up to like stage 7, I think it was, whatever that was, which unfortunately they ended up breaching max drawdown on. But I'll get it up here. I think it was a challenge.
$500,000, isn't it? Something like that. 7 stages.
Oh no, sorry, it was phase 6, I believe. So they've gone from 2.5K to 60,000.
Oh yeah.
Capital. Along the way, I think they'd done what I explained earlier. So I think they'd made maybe 10% a couple of times, withdrawn the excess, whatever it was specifically percentage wise, and then scaled. So it still had quite a good amount of payouts along the way.
Yeah.
In terms of the currently, I don't think anyone's got a live. No, someone's got 300. What would this be? Bear with me.
What's the biggest you can buy on Finotive? 200K, isn't it?
200, yeah. So we've got a guy at the minute that's funded live. He's scaled up his 100K account to the 289K capital.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things we're quite keen to take people's suggestions on board, and maybe we do rethink the scaling program or make it slightly bring back that exponential line a little bit closer to the start. However, I think the reasons behind, and like I've explained, I think for us from our point of view, it's kind of dishing out the potential capital that can be had from it. It's in our interest for serious traders to achieve that rather than making it too easy.
I mean, they've got to have a certain level of confidence in themselves.
Exactly.
No, that's good. I mean, do you reckon you've got any plans in the future to offer larger accounts?
Maybe. Nothing on the cards at the minute, but I mean, one of the things is, so we're kind of reworking our dashboard at the minute, And I think hopefully the plan is to just kind of analyze the data that we've got better and work out. We know simple facts like what's the most popular account size and whatnot.
Yeah.
Kind of working out, would it be beneficial to offer larger accounts or kind of ones in between the levels that we've got currently?
Yeah.
Our most popular account is a 25K. So obviously we've got 10K, 25, and then 50. So is it a case of, people would benefit from, 35K? I don't know. So that's the kind of thing that going into next year, we really want to improve the kind of data analysis of making sure that the current products that we've got, that they are effective, and that because obviously from a human perspective, if you're buying an account, you probably look for. So say you've got like a $200 budget, you're gonna look for what's the closest thing to $200, for example. It's taking that kind of thing on board. So in terms of like future plans, I don't have any plans at the minute to add any bigger accounts, but I'm not saying that would change. We just have to see.
No, I think the idea of even the idea of maybe being able to even pick an account in £10,000 denomination sort of thing,
no, exactly.
10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 could really, like you said, it suits people's budget, doesn't it?
Definitely, yeah, and that's something I've considered. And one thing is we are going to be adding next year is different currency accounts. So obviously everything at the minute is US dollar.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking at adding euro and pound accounts. Unlike, I think some firms, in my opinion, make it a little bit complicated where you'd go from, say, $100,000, but if you wanted it in pounds, it's actually £80,000.
Yeah.
Whereas we'd probably just keep it the same price and the same capital, just change the currency.
Yeah.
That in my head that makes more sense. So, you go for a £200,000 account, it wouldn't be 180, whatever.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But that should be a positive thing. Adds more options for people, especially if they want to be paid out in pounds, for example, or euros.
Yeah, sometimes it could be a bit nicer to get your head around and stuff. I mean, talking about obviously plans for next year, is it? I know we've been speaking about it most of the way through this, with the stuff that Finotive's got coming up. Is there anything else that you could tell us that, that Finotive have planned for next year?
Well, the main thing is wanting to kind of improve our dashboard. So you've probably heard us talking about that quite a bit, the next version of it. And my kind of main interest in this is having a more comprehensive risk element in it. So it's it is quite a hassle for us to be kind of, so going back to the responsible trading policy, it becomes a hassle for us when people aren't aware of their own risk, because they're sending us an email that's quite, defensive or on a way that's saying, how was I supposed to know? And obviously our answer is, as a trader, you should know.
Yeah.
But some people, they have absolutely no interest in learning. And at the end of the day, we are simply offering a product. So the idea being that there'll be a very complex, not complex in a bad way, but a detailed risk section where you can kind of see the cash risk of every trade that you've taken. As you've modified the stop loss, as you've taken partials off, and actually have that in real time. So you can see, what's my current risk? Am I close to breaching the RTP? Have it so that it actually sends you a warning so that it's not too late and you've breached it. Even having stuff like suggestions saying, you keep risking over 2%, which is fine. Consider lowering this to make sure that you don't breach the rules, whatever. So that's kind of one of the major updates we're looking to implement next year, is kind of a new version of that, which I think will be massively beneficial. Just having some sort of detailed risk report that people can download for themselves, like a PDF, so that they can analyze their own performance, improve it, actually see what areas they need to improve. And I think that will kind of release resource from our risk department, so that instead of having to kind of email people, kind of explain how to calculate cash risk, or that kind of released resource will be better suited elsewhere, and we can actually get those guys doing more important things, in the same thing every day. That's my aim anyway, and that's something we're looking at doing next year.
Cool. It's all very exciting stuff.
Sounds really good. But the thing is, like you were saying, like regarding the dashboard, getting notifications if you're like drawing close to your like 5% daily drawdown, stuff like that, giving people just an extra nudge just to be more careful.
Exactly.
It's really important.
It's not in our interest for people to fail, and it's not in our interest for people to risk too much. It's actually the opposite. So we would love to pre-warn people now, but we don't have the infrastructure in place in the system to do that, which is why this kind of new dashboard and whatever is quite a priority for us, alongside the other stuff within the group, like getting the regulation and whatnot. So that's exciting, in my opinion. I think that'll be really good.
Definitely. Well, yeah, thank you, Ben. I mean, we've got just finishing up really. We've got just a couple of questions from our members. We let them know that we're doing this podcast, and we just got two questions. First one, I probably know the answer to now that we've had this chat. But what do Finotive do to keep traders safe in terms of spread, as some other prop firms are quite questionable?
Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a really good question, because I think a lot of people maybe aren't aware of, well, people won't be aware of the back end broker. So there's kind of two sides to that. One is that it's in our interest for traders to do well, and that would mean, not manipulating pricing, whatever. It's not in our interest for people to have bad pricing or whatever. It's actually the opposite. It's in our interest, because if we're putting funded traders through to market, then we want them to succeed. And the back end of that question is, like we said, what we've discussed previously, to protect traders, it's actually having these risk rules in place. You could, if you had a 1 pip wider spread, it's going to be annoying, but it's not going to do anywhere near as much damage to your account as if you were risking 2,000% per trade.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's weighing it up, and there's we get obviously we get all of our pricing from our liquidity provider, and we just pump that straight through. So whatever spreads we're getting, whatever slippage, whatever, that's what we've got, and unless we're giving demo accounts, which again isn't beneficial. Unfortunately, there is going to be spread, and there's nothing actually we can do to protect spread. Maybe you can put spread limits on, but at the end of the day, we'd end up taking it on the chin either way.
Yeah.
I think as traders, we also need to take into an account spreads as well. Like when we're doing stop losses and stuff like that. So even like one of the strategies we use, like I always say to people, bear in mind you've got your spread, so maybe just allow a pip extra for your stop loss.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, personally, when I'm trading, if I'm trading 1% risk per trade, I'll actually calculate it at 0.95. So obviously you've got swaps if you're holding it overnight, you've got your comms, and that stuff really adds up. If you look at your trading statement for a year, and sometimes it's sickening how much comms you spend.
Commissions, yeah.
Which is another reason why I can't wait for Finotive Markets to launch, because we're going to massively undercut other people on. We're just going to A-book everything, just put it through to market. Really, the business model will be, just making sure that people get the best pricing, and part of that is best comms. So I can't wait to personally trade on Finotive Markets, so stop spending so much commission at other brokers.
I know. I think I've heard some very big successful traders I know that like they literally just go between any of them that are trading prop firms. Like they go literally between who's offering the best prices at the moment. That's just they know what they're doing. They know how to trade. They will make money, but their defining factor is really who has the cheapest, commissions and things. That's if you guys can undercut everyone else, epic.
And that's our goal. I mean, when you look at the kind of cost for liquidity, and then you look at what brokers charge, it's a massive markup. So there's a lot of room for us to be really competitive there, but still be able to run the business.
Great news.
Our goal. I mean, on the comms thing, like obviously, like I said, my background's in algorithmic trading, and when you're looking at that stuff, if I'm running a back test and then you factor in comms, you can very easily go from a winning system to a losing system just from the commissions and the spreads. So I say that, to just back up what you're saying, definitely you need to factor in that stuff into your risk management.
So I think when we sort of teach, about getting to know the pair, like if you're trading Forex, like, getting to know the pairs that you're working with, getting to know their spreads, they vary so much that, it's a vital sort of thing to put it into trading.
I do have one quick question, so I do apologize. It's literally just sprung to mind. Obviously between 10 and 11 p.m. At night UK time GMT, you have the market changeover between New York and Australia, and obviously that can create some really large spreads for pretty much the majority of brokers. Is there, I don't know if it's ever been raised or anything like that, but do you think Finotive would ever look at maybe trying to minimize spreads around that time, even if it's like, I don't even know if that's even possible because of the changeover? But
so that changeover is purely a swap over of liquidity. So the spread isn't actually, I mean, I'm sure some brokers will mark it up to kind of ride on the back of it, but the wide spread comes directly from the liquidity source. So whatever spreads that we get currently with Finotive Markets is what the LP is giving us. And obviously, as you guys know, the trader has to be aware of those rollover times. And that comes back to what I was saying earlier. Like, it's really important for traders to not just look at identifying a doji, but also understanding, 11 p.m. every night the rollover, A, I'm going to get charged a swap. B, I could very easily lose my trade that was in profit. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can actually physically do to stop that. All we can do is not mark it up more than what it is, which is obviously what I've said. We've got no interest in doing that and giving ourselves worse market conditions.
Well, exactly. If you somehow could make it easier for the trader, you're going to be the ones that lose out ultimately.
But even then, I don't think so. I don't think we can. We can't reduce the spreads at all. All I was saying is, I don't know if there's a way to cap the spreads. I don't know if there even is a way to do that. And if there was, obviously, we'd have to then take that on the chin and physically pay the difference. But I don't know if there even is a way to do that.
Or even, do you know what like US 30 does? And it freezes for the hour, doesn't it? Is I don't know if maybe that would be something that's could be looked into in the future or something like that.
We could do stuff like that. We could stop trading. However, all that you'd probably have is I mean, I'd have to look into it, but you'd probably end up just having like a gap that compensates. So not a gap for where the price was at the start of the hour and where it is at the end, but the gap would probably factor in the spread. So obviously, like cable, for example, or any FX, it shuts for however long, but the exchange rate doesn't shut. Obviously the actual global exchange rate is still changing. So it's just that the market's shut, isn't it? So I mean, I don't know if there's even any functionality in MT5. I mean, we can change the trading hours, but I don't know if that would even help. I think it would have to compensate in one way or another to avoid, because you're still holding a position over that period. I guess all we could do is stop people being able to open a trade in those times. But again, people would then probably argue that we're restricting them.
Everyone's going to argue in some way, aren't
they? You can't please everyone in that factor, can you? I guess you're trying to help, but then it swings and roundabouts, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, for sure. In what we found quite popular in our group, I don't know if there's any thought from Finotive to do something similar. Obviously, FTMO do like the do a evaluation demo.
Yes.
Is that any? I mean, it is quite a popular thing. Obviously, it's good for technical stuff. Obviously, it's not great for the mindset stuff because you're not dealing with real pressures. But Is that anything that's thought about, that Finotive have thought about doing? Anything like that?
It's currently not in our plan to offer like a trial or a demo. Obviously, when Finotive Markets is launched, traders could make a demo account to test the conditions.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we won't do a trial, but at the minute it's not in the pipeline to introduce one.
Yeah.
I think what people are finding so good about the demo is that it has the rules.
Yeah.
So people
Sure, yeah.
are then straight away, okay, I've got my 5% drawdown and all that. They straight away, where if you open a normal demo with, say, IC Markets or something, they give you a 100K account. You could then go whack 100 lot size on it, do as much drawdown as you want and everything like that. And I think that's what people love, is that it's structured. So
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, if it's not something that's planned like immediately, then
Yeah, I mean, there's two elements of it. So some firms just fully use demo accounts, which obviously, you've got demo conditions which are kind of good. Obviously, they're good. However, from the prop firm's operational perspective, then trying to actually kind of copy those back to market is a bit weird, because you've got two different price sources essentially. So I guess I would say that to say this is that, so we have to pay for every account at Finotive because they're all live accounts. So whether in the challenge they are live non-execute, and then when they're funded they are live and then back to market, each of those accounts costs us. And one of the kind of things is, obviously if we did trials, then that kind of cost would jump up massively. Which is, I'm not saying we can't afford it. What I'm saying is, the solution may be that we'd offer a demo account with evaluation monitoring. However, and that would be good for people to understand. However, it wouldn't be the same trading conditions.
Yeah.
So it would only really kind of solve half the problem, if that makes sense. But it's definitely something, I've had other people suggest it, and I think I do understand the benefit of it, and maybe it is something to look at adding, but we just need to make sure that it's as realistic as the main challenge as possible.
Yeah.
People, so it's a real representation of what it's going to be like in the challenge, but also that in a way is viable for us, so we don't get 10,000 people doing a trial that's costing us an arm and a leg for accounts that aren't actually going to be
trading live,
any money made from trading live. So it's just weighing that up. But yeah, so at the minute it's not in the plan, but I'm not saying it'll never happen.
Got you. Cool. That was just that. Yeah, that was the second question from one of our members. Yeah, no, cool. I mean, we spoke earlier before we started recording about, obviously, you guys doing podcast stuff. I mean, any of our leaders, we've got a few people with funded accounts for Finotive and stuff. If you're doing podcasts with members, with traders that you've got on your books, then yeah, we've got plenty that would be happy to jump on with you. Any questions for us while we're here?
I don't think so. I mean, I know you guys put your promotion in our community group the other day. Yeah. It seems to have. I mean, it looked like it had like some interest from the guys.
Yeah.
So I mean,
we're bloody cheap, to be fair.
Yeah. I mean, I was surprised. From the value you guys are giving your members, it's crazy, really.
Yeah.
Everything mentioned, and even people in this industry, people charge an arm and a leg for nothing sometimes. And I think, I mean, I just want to commend you guys. It looks like you're doing a fantastic job, and like you say, we've got traders getting payouts from us, which is the kind of proof. But no, I mean, just keep doing what you're doing. I mean, it's beneficial for us to have traders coming through you guys that understand risk management, aren't going to just wax the lot on one trade, and actually, more importantly, actually make money in the long run.
Well, it's like yourself. We're trying to break down that barrier of like misrepresentation. Like, obviously, we were talking about earlier how other prop firms have gathered bad names for themselves, and it's the same with us. Like, there's so many, there's so many people out there that go, oh yeah, I'm going to give you thousands of pounds, just follow my trades and all that. Like we're trying to say, look, this is not what we're about. We want to help you learn. So yeah,
it's not signals based or anything like that. It's actually just teaching the raw process of trading and actually being
exactly.
And yeah, we did, like, as a company, I think we're doing really, really well. We've got really organic growth, and yeah, it's great to see it. It's great to be helping people out, really. So, but no, I mean, no, thank you so much for jumping on with us, Ben.
It's been brilliant.
Been great. First time I've ever spoken to anyone from a prop firm, and yeah, it's been a real insight into all this. So yeah, can't thank you enough. And yeah, like I said, if you ever want us for a podcast, just give us a shout. But yeah, thank you again.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm sure Sean would be jumping all over the place
for
it.
Right, well,
I'll start recording that.